Majority Leader of the House of Representatives, the gentleman from Maryland, Steny Hoyer.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, who has been a dear friend of mine, as his father was, for a very long period of time. And we share in common a lot of things. But one of those things that we share in common is a great respect for Richard Trumka, a great appreciation for the leadership that Richard Trumka showed, not only in the labor movement, but in our country as a citizen, representing our best values. And we share respect for the labor movement. Richard Trumka, Madam Speaker, walked with the weight of America's workers on his shoulders. But he wore that weight lightly, in one sense, and with a great sense of responsibility in another sense. He carried them with him always in his mind and in his soul. His life was devoted to the labor movement and to each and every worker who was part of the labor movement. His loss, in my view, is a grievous one for our country, and he leaves behind a legacy for which we can all be grateful. The men and women in labor who have a better wage, a better place to work, and greater security because of Richard Trumka. Thanks to Mr. Trumka, workers across the United States today have stronger representation and safer working conditions. 12.5 million union members and countless others have looked up to him for decades as a force for our positive change, an unrivaled leader in the labor movement. Few people epitomized, Madam Speaker, the ideals of the workers' rights movements, which are also core values of the Democratic Party, in the way Mr. Trumka did. He was a fighter, but he was also a great tactician and strategist. Those, of course, are the determination and attributes that everyone who works hard ought to be able to get ahead, and that working families ought to be able to access opportunities and economic security. From the beginning of his career, first as a coal miner and then as president of the United Mine Workers of America, he was committed to forging closer ties between workers and their union representatives. And he ultimately became president of the AFL-CIO because not only was he committed to doing that, he did it. He accomplished it. He made a difference for workers, for their families, and for America. He knew that union action was the greatest tool available to achieve labor reforms and to make economic security more attainable for workers and their families. As American workers continue to face new challenges as a result of the pandemic, it is essential that policymakers continue to work closely with organized labor and leaders like Richard Trumka. The COVID-19 pandemic has placed so many of our workers and their families in situations dangerous to their health and also to their economic well-being. Now, Madam Speaker, more than ever, workers need champions for their rights, their fair wages, and their fair benefits. And they're missing that champion that called Richard Trumka president. We need to ensure that workers continue to have a strong voice in Congress, and we need to do everything we can to keep them and their families safe and able to access opportunities. Madam Speaker, in his last major speech, Mr. Trumka told the Texas AFL-CIO members that inequality is the greatest threat to democracy. He said this, quote, "Without the right to vote and without the right to organize, there is no democracy." I share that view with Richard Trumka. Our Democratic House majority will not waver in our work to secure both the right to organize and the right to vote. There are really two of the same principle. We look forward to working just as closely with Liz Shuler, I might say, a historic figure in her own right, like our speaker who just spoke a little while ago, the first woman to lead the AFL-CIO. She's worked alongside Richard Trumka for years, helping him realize his goals for the organization in its fight for workers' rights in this country. Richard Trumka's vision for the future was one of dignity and justice for all working Americans. Madam Speaker, we remain committed to that vision and will continue to honor his memory by fighting to realize his dream for all working Americans. God bless you, Richard Trumka, and may God keep your family in the hollow of his hand. I yield back.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hoyer. Madam Speaker, how much time do I have remaining?